Welcome to Innerscapes, the podcast where we journey into the complex, often hidden landscapes of our minds and hearts. I'm your host, Alex, and today we're delving into a subject that touches many of us, yet is often simplified or misunderstood: the powerful current of lust. Is it merely a biological function, a fleeting urge? Or could it be a signpost pointing towards something much deeper within us? To help us navigate this intricate topic, we're honored to have the distinguished psychologist and author, Dr. Evelyn Hayes, with us today. Dr. Hayes has spent decades exploring the human psyche with a particular focus on the work of Carl Jung and its relevance to our modern lives. Dr. Hayes, thank you so much for joining us on Innerscapes.
Thank you for having me, Alex. It's a pleasure, and indeed a very important conversation to be having.
Dr. Hayes, the passage we're exploring today paints a very evocative scene. Those quiet, solitary hours, perhaps late at night, the glow of a screen, a restless mind, and this stirring urge we often label as lust. We tell ourselves, it's normal, everyone feels this, everyone does it. From your perspective, is it always that straightforward?
That's certainly the common narrative, Alex, and the one that often provides a simple justification. And yes, there's an undeniable biological component to our sexual urges. That's part of our human design. However, if we truly pause in those moments, if we dare to strip away the societal scripts and the quick labels, as the text so eloquently suggests, we often find that this powerful feeling we call lust is acting as a complex messenger. It's frequently pointing not just to a need for physical release, but to a far deeper, often unarticulated hunger within the soul.
A hunger. The text uses powerful imagery, an emptiness, a hollow echo that resonates not just after, but during the chase itself. Can you expand on this idea that what feels like desire might actually be rooted in a sense of lack?
Absolutely. Carl Gustav Jung, whose work provides such profound insight into these matters, observed with striking accuracy that people will do anything, no matter how absurd, to avoid facing their own soul. This relentless grasping, the seemingly insatiable craving that we quickly categorize as lust, is very often not truly about seeking pleasure in its most fulfilling, life-affirming sense. More often, it serves as a sophisticated, albeit unconscious, strategy of escape.
An escape? An escape from what, specifically?
An escape from a multitude of internal discomforts. It could be an escape from the gnawing emptiness of boredom, where life feels devoid of meaning or engagement. It can be an escape from the sharp, unacknowledged edges of past or present pain, emotional wounds we haven't tended to. And very commonly, Alex, it's an escape from the profound ache of loneliness. A loneliness that can persist even when we're surrounded by people. It could even be an escape from the deafening, echoing silence that can inhabit the deepest chambers of our own hearts when we are disconnected from our true selves.
So when we tell ourselves we desire a particular person or a specific image, the text suggests the truth might be more fundamental. What then is this deeper yearning actually for, if not just the immediate sensation?
What if what we truly yearn for in those moments of intense craving is to feel undeniably, vibrantly alive? To feel genuinely held, and I mean that, not just physically, but emotionally, psychically. To feel seen, truly seen, beyond the masks and performances that we often adopt in this increasingly performative existence we navigate. What if at the core of our being, we crave to feel something, anything, that resonates with profound authenticity, something that cuts through the polished veneer of our daily routines and touches the raw, real essence of who we are?
That's a powerful reframe. So instead of turning inward to find that aliveness or authenticity, we chase the external, the body, the image, the promise of a quick dopamine hit.
Precisely. And that dopamine surge is, by its very nature, fleeting. It's a temporary high that evaporates almost as quickly as it arrives. often leaving behind a residue of something far less pleasant. Perhaps a deeper sense of that same void, that same silence, that same untouched, unaddressed self we were attempting to flee in the first place. You see, this kind of lust, this compulsive seeking, isn't the enemy. It's not the root pathology. It is, as Jung might suggest, the symptom, a crucial, often misunderstood signal.
A signal from our soul, as the text puts it? A distress flare indicating something vital is amiss.
Exactly. Beneath that surface-level craving, that urgent itch, often lies a pervasive systemic disconnection. Perhaps we are not truly connected to our bodies, treating them more as machines for sensation than as sacred vessels of experience and wisdom. Perhaps we are not connected to a sense of purpose, drifting through our days without a clear compass of meaning or direction. Perhaps we are not connected to the full spectrum of our emotions, numbing the difficult ones and, in doing so, inadvertently dulling our capacity for true joy and aliveness. And ultimately, Alex, perhaps we are not truly, deeply, authentically connected to ourselves.
And so, in this state of inner fragmentation, we reach for the easiest, most readily available substitute for that connection?
We grasp for the illusion of closeness. We seek the fleeting mirage of control in a world that often feels chaotic and overwhelming. We crave that temporary hit of feeling wanted, even if it's only by an algorithm, a fantasy, or an image on a screen. Jung would look upon this pattern and recognize the shadow in action.
The shadow. Can you explain that concept for our listeners who might not be familiar with Jungian psychology?
Certainly. The shadow, in Jungian thought, is the part of our unconscious mind that is comprised of all the aspects of ourselves that we've disowned, repressed, or deemed unacceptable by our conscious ego or by societal standards. It might contain our fears, our insecurities, our negative emotions, but also, paradoxically, our hidden talents and unexpressed potentials. It's the part of you, perhaps, that was never loved in the right way, never seen for its true worth, never validated in its authentic needs. And now this unloved, unseen, unacknowledged part searches for that missing love, that absent validation, in all the wrong ways, through all the wrong channels, often driving these compulsive behaviors.
And this isn't just about sex, is it? The text mentions compulsive texting, pornography, meaningless conversations that skirt intimacy but never land.
Precisely. This pattern of escape, this shadow-driven seeking, manifests in a multitude of ways. It's in the desperate need for constant digital validation, the likes, the follows. It's in the anodyne pornography consumed in the lonely hours, a sterile attempt to simulate intimacy. It's in those conversations that hover on the edge of something almost intimate, yet never quite arrive, leaving you feeling unfulfilled. It's even in the constant obsessive mental replay of someone who once made you feel desired, a desperate clinging to a past sensation. What are we truly doing in these moments? We are, with ever-increasing ingenuity, avoiding the profound visceral loneliness that resides just beneath the surface of our skin.
Because to sit with that loneliness, to truly feel its weight, is to admit something terrifying. The text says you don't just want release, you want rescue.
Rescue. Rescue from our own self-imposed isolation. Rescue from the pervasive numbness that might have become a default state. Rescue from those buried, legitimate needs that we were perhaps never taught or never allowed to acknowledge, let alone express authentically. Jung saw this pattern repeatedly. People often came to him presenting not with explicitly sexual issues, but with a deep, unarticulated spiritual hunger disguised as worldly desire. He didn't moralize. He invited them to go deeper.
So the pivotal question isn't, why do I feel this lust?
No, the far more generative question, the one we must have the courage to ask ourselves, is what is this lust? In its specific urgency and its particularity, trying to distract me from? And what deeper need is it a distorted expression of?
And if we don't ask that question, if we continue to avoid that deep dive,
Then we keep feeding the craving, but never touch the underlying wound. We keep chasing bodies, but never experience the profound solace of true intimacy. We keep fantasizing, but never feel the deep affirmation of being truly seen and accepted for who we are. We keep reaching for that fleeting finish, that temporary release, but we never, ever feel genuinely whole. Our pleasure-obsessed culture rarely tells us this, Alex. We don't necessarily need more pleasure, at least not the kind we've been chasing. We need more presence. We don't need another body to lose ourselves in. We need to come back, fully and courageously, into our own body, our own life.
the text also mentions Jung's concept of the anima in men. How does that relate to this misdirected desire?
In Jungian psychology, the anima is the unconscious feminine aspect within a man's psyche. It embodies qualities like relatedness, emotional depth, intuition, creativity, and the capacity for profound connection. When a man's anima is unconscious, underdeveloped, or wounded, perhaps through cultural conditioning that devalues emotional expression in men, or through personal relational traumas, he doesn't know how to feel his own emotions deeply. He doesn't know how to surrender to the flow of life, trust his intuition, or how to love and be loved without anxious attachment or fearful avoidance.
So he projects these qualities outward.
Yes, his soul, his underdeveloped anima, reaches out in the only way it currently knows. Through projection, he unconsciously places his own lost tenderness, his buried vulnerability, his unexpressed inner light onto an external figure, onto her or the idea of her. Not necessarily because she perfectly embodies these things, but because something about her, real or imagined, resonates with that lost and longed-for part of himself. So, when he finds himself lusting after her, he's not solely craving a sexual act. On a much deeper psychic level, he is craving reunion with his own lost soul, his unintegrated anima.
That's why it often hurts, why it feels so insatiable, and why it leaves him feeling emptier. He's chasing something external that actually needs to be found within.
Precisely. You cannot possess externally what must be cultivated internally. And the more disconnected a man is from his integrated anima, and for women the equivalent is the animus, the inner masculine, the more his outward expressions of desire can become desperate, intense, and ultimately profoundly empty. You scroll endlessly, a digital ghost. You fantasize with painful intensity. You replay fleeting encounters, yet each time you feel more alienated from your true core.
And the text describes a worrying progression if this pattern continues. Emotional dullness setting in, starting to see people as objects, mistaking fleeting attention for genuine love. It talks about losing motivation in other areas of life, a dwindling passion to create or contribute.
Yes, that primal fire, that potent libidinal energy, which, when integrated, is meant to fuel our purpose and creativity, gets diverted. Mindless, compulsive indulgence becomes a shortcut to a semblance of aliveness. But the cost, as Jung tirelessly pointed out, is our soul, our vital connection to our deeper self and to life's richness. Each time we unconsciously feed a craving without conscious awareness, we strengthen the underlying psychological loop. The trigger, reaction, temporary relief, then guilt or emptiness, and repeat. We start to believe this cycle is who we are.
And it sounds like a very lonely place to be, stuck in that loop. The text even uses the phrase psychic possession, where it feels like you're not even in control anymore.
It can feel that way. It's as if an unconscious complex hijacks your willpower. You feel acted through, but it's not truly you. It's your shadow, your profound loneliness, your unloved inner child, desperately searching for connection in the only fragmented ways it knows. Relationships falter under unmet expectations. Genuine connection can feel too real, too vulnerable, compared to the controllable realm of fantasy. You can't sit with discomfort, so you swipe. You can't deal with silence, so you scroll. You can't face yourself, so you chase someone else.
And the ultimate consequence, as the text chillingly puts it, is not shame or divine punishment, but numbness, a soul-deadening numbness.
And Jung would argue that this numbness is often worse than acute pain. Because when you're numb, you stop evolving. You stop listening to the subtle whispers of your soul. You stop hearing that persistent inner voice, however faint, that says, "This isn't who I truly came here to be."
This all sounds quite heavy, Dr. Hayes, but the message isn't one of despair, is it? Jung and the text seem to offer a path towards healing, towards integration. Where does one begin to break this cycle?
No, it's not a message of despair, but one of profound hope and possibility. The journey begins not with more self-criticism or repression. Desire itself is life force. It begins, as the text emphasizes, with one deceptively simple yet profoundly challenging step. Stay. Not with the fantasy, not with the external object of craving. Stay with you. Stay present in your own body, even when it's acutely uncomfortable. Stay with the ache, the craving, the restlessness, without automatically feeding it.
That sounds incredibly difficult. What happens when you try to just stay?
Oh, it will likely feel almost impossible at first. Chuckle softly. Your mind will scream for its usual fix. You might feel an almost unbearable itch to scroll, to click, to escape. But if you can breathe through it, just for one moment longer than you usually do, then one moment more, you might begin to hear something new emerging from beneath the noise. Silence. Not the numb, empty kind, but a sacred, pregnant kind of silence. And in that potent silence, a voice, perhaps a whisper at first, might emerge. It might say, "I miss you." And that voice, that's the part of you that you left behind.
The voice of the soul that mistook fleeting touch for lasting truth.
Indeed. Jung believed you don't kill your shadow, you integrate it. You sit with it patiently, compassionately. You learn from its often painful messages. You bring its disowned energies back into the light of your conscious awareness, where they can be transformed and harnessed for growth.
So what does that look like in practical, everyday terms? How does one actively cultivate this conscious, loving relationship with their own soul?
You might start writing again. Journaling, not just to express, but to excavate, to feel the layers of your inner world. You might create something, painting, music, gardening, cooking, anything, not to impress, but to release pent-up energy and give form to your inner landscape. Consciously choose to spend time in nature, allowing its rhythms to soothe and re-regulate your nervous system. You might finally allow yourself to cry, to grieve for what was lost, for what was never given, or simply practice breathing deeply into your chest, into your heart space, and asking with genuine openness, what do I actually need right now, beneath this surface craving? And then, Alex, the crucial step, commit to listening. Not just once, but every day.
And over time, as you engage in this practice, the cravings, the compulsive urges begin to lose their tyrannical grip.
Yes, not necessarily because they disappear entirely. Desire is a fundamental part of being alive, but because you no longer fear them, you no longer automatically identify with them. You can begin to welcome the heat, to thank the desire for its message, and then to hear what it's really saying beneath the surface noise. It's often saying, I want love, I want authentic connection, I want beauty, I want meaning, I want me, my whole integrated, authentic self.
So it's about reclaiming those lost parts, integrating the anima or animus, and no longer needing to desperately chase its reflection outside of yourself. You begin to live it.
Exactly. You feel your emotions without being overwhelmed. You honor your vulnerability as a strength. You become magnetic in a new way, not because you're trying to attract, but because you are, finally, becoming whole. And then, when someone truly special does come along, you don't need to possess them to feel complete. You don't need them to rescue you from your emptiness. You've already begun the sacred work of doing that for yourself.
Dr. Hayes, this has been an incredibly illuminating conversation. You've helped us see that what we often dismiss as mere lust can be a profound invitation from our soul, guiding us towards a deeper understanding of ourselves and a more authentic way of living. The journey is clearly not about extinguishing desire, but about purifying it, elevating it, aligning it with the deepest truths of our being.
Precisely. It's about transforming that desperate flight from self into a courageous journey toward self. And that journey, though it may be arduous at times, is the most worthwhile pilgrimage any human being can undertake.
For our listeners who feel this resonates deeply, what's one final thought you'd like to leave them with?
For our listeners who feel this resonates deeply, know that you've already, in a sense, begun the journey back. The very act of recognizing the truth in these words is a step. Sit with it, listen to the echoes. And remember, you were never truly addicted to her or him or it. You were and are responding to the profound universal longing for the feeling of being whole. Now, give that precious gift back to yourself. The power to do so, the map to your own soul, has been within you all along.
Dr. Evelyn Hayes, thank you once again for your profound wisdom and compassionate insights. It's been a privilege.
The pleasure was all mine, Alex.
And to our listeners, thank you for joining us on Innerscapes. May you find the courage to listen to the whispers of your own soul and journey well on the path to wholeness.